Well, the 2018 Toronto Maple Leafs season, 2017-2018 Toronto Maple Leafs season has come to an end. A 4-3, or I guess a 4-3 series loss to the Boston Bruins. A 7-4 loss to the Bruins tonight at TD Garden. And we could sit here today and we could say Jake Gardiner was awful. We could sit here and say Freddie Anderson was awful. We could say Matthews has been a ghost the entire playoffs. We could say that all. We could really go into depth with it, and we will in a second here. But in the end, guys, the Boston Bruins are a very, very good team. This Leaf team, they showed fight. They never quit. They pushed the Boston Bruins to the brink. But the Bruins, in the end, they're an amazing team. They went on an insane run to end the regular season, and they, for the most part, continued it into the playoffs. And I could see this team possibly going all the way. As a Leaf fan, I don't like Boston. I hate them with a passion. But they're a darn good team. And I could see them beating Tampa Bay. But you never know what can happen. So let's break this thing down, I guess, before we just reminisce a little bit and talk about it. And the Leafs get on the power play early in the game. Patrick Marleau with a tip in front of a Jake Gardiner point shot. Leafs up 1-0. A couple minutes later, they get a power play on a stupid play by Morgan Rielly, batting it out of the air backhanding it into the stands. He felt the pressure and he just lifted it up and it went over the glass. And Jake DeBrusk scored his fourth goal of the playoffs, and it's a 1-1 game. But 2 minutes after that, I have a nice little passing play from Mitch Marner. Patrick Marleau rifles a shot far side on Tuukka Rask. Leafs get the lead back 2-1. But again, 3 minutes after that, Danton Heinen with a weird spin shot. Freddie probably should have had that one, but instead it's tied at 2 apiece. And then with 37 seconds to play in the period, Patrice Bergeron scores. And we've talked about it all series, guys. You find a way to shut down that big line, this team does well. But Bergeron scores. They have the lead after 1. It's a late goal, and it's tough. But the Leafs, they get flying out there in the second period, just 2 minutes and 7 seconds in. Travis Dermott takes a slap shot, blocked, stays with it, keeps the puck in, fires it on net, hits a Bruins defender and off the post and in, and we're tied at 3 apiece. 4 minutes after that, though, on the shorthanded play, it gets through Marchand. Kapanen away to the races, out-muscles Marchand. Beautiful goal by Kapanen to, kind of outweight Tuukka Rask and slide it around him to give the Leafs the 4-3 lead at the time. And we go into the intermission, up 4-3. But the question for Leaf fans, and I know we had the lead after 2, but every Leaf fan is like, this game is far from over. This Leaf team cannot sit back on their heels, and they need the next goal. That was the thought process going into that last little bit. Even though the Leafs were outshot to all heck in the second period, 13-6, I thought overall they didn't play an awful period. But we go into the third period, and off a face-off win from whom else? Patrice Bergeron. Off a referee to Kevin Miller, cross to Torrey Krug. No screen in front, just a slap shot from the point, and Freddie just whiffs on it. And we're tied. They had the momentum right out of the gate there in the third period. They got the goal to tie it, and I think every Leaf fan is like, oh God, this might get messy. And it did. 4 minutes after that, William Nylander turns the puck over in the zone. Jake Gardiner decides, I think he's kind of mid-decision whether he's going to step up or not. Doesn't, and then turns the wrong way. You want to turn into the guy so you have a stick to kind of try and poke it away. Instead, he turns to the middle of the ice where he's got his back to the guy. DeBrusk is fast. He beats him. Jake Gardiner dumps him, as he tries to cut to the net. But he fires a 5-hole on Freddie Anderson. So Jake Gardiner was awful on that play. But Freddie, you got to make that save. That's a 5-hole shot. And the Bruins take the lead. All the momentum is on their side. At one point in the third period, the Leafs hadn't got a shot for almost 10 minutes. And then what? Then Pasternak off a turnover from Jake Gardiner. Jake Gardiner tries to dive into the front of the net. hits Freddie Anderson, and Pasternak fires it in the empty net, and it's a 6-4 game. And of course, Brad Marchand gets the empty netter. So look at that first line, guys. We talk about how if they shut them down, the Leafs get the win. Well, Pasternak scored, Marchand scored, whether it was an empty netter or not, and Patrice Bergeron scored. Gardner probably played his one of the worst games we've seen of the playoffs. Freddie Anderson was awful. Didn't make a big save this team needed in the third period to kind of get them back into the flow of things. Didn't get that save. Austin Matthews, for every game in the series, except for that one goal he had, but even for most of that game, he was nowhere to be found, was a ghost. The Bruins played the physical game on him, and they got the better of him. William Nylander, I thought he was okay today, but really, guys, the Bruins are just a better team here. I'm a Leaf fan. I love my team. I love supporting my blue and white, no matter how stressful it is at all times. We still know, we all will know until something changes. This team needs a defenseman or two. Now, whether they address that in the offseason hard or whether they do it with some small moves that'll pay off in the end, I don't know. I can't say anything about that right now. I mean, JVR and Bozak, they could have, and Komarov didn't play, but all three of those guys could have been a part of their last game as a Toronto Maple Leaf. We don't know what the plan is for the offseason for Lou Lamoriello, Brendan Shanahan, Mike Babcock. We don't know what the plan is. The Leafs got to sign William Nylander this offseason, and with Nylander signing, I think Marner will sign too. Well, if that's the case, what do you do in free agency? Well, that's something we're going to break down in the off-season preview video, guys. But Tuukka Rask made the big saves late. Freddie did not. Plain and simple there. You look at some of these goals. I'm not saying all of them was Freddie's fault. The first one wasn't. He couldn't see a darn thing. I look at the Jake DeBrusk goal, and I look at the Torrey Krug goal, and those two goals pretty much decided the game. It was the tying goal and the game-winning goal. Those are two goals that Freddie has to save, and he does not. Leaf fans, we're all here together. Bruins fans, congratulations. You guys are with a better team, and I can see this team going all the way to the Cup final. And you never know. They're a good team. They're a grindy team. They're a fast team. As much people don't say they're the big hitting team, but they're a physical team. There's a fine line between that. They showed a lot of that in this series, and they have a great goalie in Tuukka Rask. The sky's the limit for the Bruins. The Leafs, we know it has to change. We know the things this team needs to add. But the problem, Leaf fans, we can't get greedy. You can't think to yourself, I want to keep JVR, Bozak, and go out there and get Karlsson and then sign Nylander and Marner. You can't do that. To get Marner and Nylander signed and actually get somebody half decent in free agency, you're going to have to let JVR probably and Bozak go. But if that's the case, who's your center core? You're losing Plekanec because he's on the last year of a deal. Dom Moore only got the 1-year deal. So what's the plan there? It's a lot of questions heading into the offseason for the Leafs. They didn't deserve the series win, really. They got outplayed almost all the time. And when they didn't get outplayed, that was in Game 4, and they lost that game. And it's just a very, very weird time for the Leafs, and a very weird 82 games, 89 games in total. And the season's over for the Buds. I really... It hurts. It really does. But we got to take it for a grain of salt. If you're trying to find positives in this, they made it one game more than last year. They lost in 6 to Washington. They lost in 7 to Boston, I guess. And everyone's like, they choked again. Well, okay, they didn't give up a 3-goal lead. But if you think about it this way, they gave up 3 1-goal leads. And it hurts. The Leafs didn't deserve to win today. With their third period play, they were god-awful. And they got outshot 11-8, but probably 5 or 6 of those shots were in the final 3 minutes when they had the empty net. So, Leaf fans, let's try and get through it and move on. It's not going to be an easy one, but let's just take some time to get through it, all right? So you know what, guys? that is going to do it for this one. That is going to do it for the 2017-2018 Toronto Maple Leafs season. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the ride, if you guys had a good time with the channel. I really do appreciate that if you guys would. Hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. Comment down below, where did the Buds go wrong in this game? If you want to throw names out there, you could. I mean, but really, the Leafs just didn't show the oomph in the third period to win that game. I want to hear what you guys have to say. What do you think how do you think the season was as a whole? Again, congratulations to the Bruins for moving on. They were the better team today, and they were more or less the better team in the series, and they won. As much as for Leaf fans, it's heartbreaking, and it's killing me to do this. We got to take it as a grain of salt and move on. All right, so we'll talk to you guys next Thursday, podcast edition. Link is in the description for the podcast channel. Link is also in the description for the podcast itself on iTunes. Twitter is down in the description as well, you guys. And we'll talk to you guys, I guess, Jay's edition next. We'll talk about all the garbage stuff first. They lost 4-3 to the Boston Red Sox. Of course they did. And they are now split series, and they got Chris Sale in the finale tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll talk to you guys Raptors edition, the final video of the day, and they won at home, making it a 3-2 series for the Raptors. So we'll talk about that lastly to kind of get some positive in our life to end the night, all right? So I appreciate your guys' ride throughout the entire season. I love you, Leaf fans. We'll get through this together, and I'm just praying to God something happens in the offseason to give us some glimpse of hope on the back end, all right? So we'll talk to you guys in a little bit with all the other games going on. And once again, thank you guys for the 2017-2018 Toronto Maple Leafs season.